हमारी स्पिरिट से बढ़कर के दुनिया में कोई फोर्स नहीं होता। उत्साह परम बलम।
Prarambh, Utsaha Parambalam. Taking inspiration from Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision. Let us ignite the next major movement for startups. Let's celebrate the ideas and the excitement. Let's exchange awareness and knowledge. Let's expand the horizons. Let's establish accolades. Let's embrace. Let us initiate. Prarambh, Utsaha, Parambalam. Startup India International Summit.
Okay. You're playing the video, or shall we just start? No video? Okay. Okay. So I'm Dr. Shobhana Kamineni, the Executive Vice Chairperson of Apollo Hospitals, a healthcare group in India. We do many things in healthcare, and but today I'm very privileged to extend a warm welcome to all the esteemed panelists at the session on promoting women entrepreneurship. We have with us Dr. Renu Swaroop, Ms. Tina Jabin, Ms. Choitso Edul Dorji, Ms. Miu Miu Aye, Ms. Santoshi Rana, Ms. Kasturi Chelaraja Wilson, Ms. Warankana Panovich from countries all around Asia, and I'll be introducing them to you before they speak. So, what strikes me is that there are many women leaders in the world that have spoken so much about women, but one of the most poignant and I think compelling arguments is that women women actually are the largest untapped reservoir of energy that the world has, that can actually change the contours of the world, both not just socially as they've been doing, but even in terms of economic prowess in all fields. And in this session, the flag bearer women who are change makers and leaders
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So again, my apologies to the audience. I was introducing this amazing panel of women that we have, and just when I finished, I think that I had a technology problem. I'm back on. Just would like to welcome all of you and tell you that all of us realize that women are a huge untapped reservoir. I have an amazing panel of women here who are going to spend some time talking to you and about the potential in their different countries and actually about the world and how things are changing. While there are great statistics that say in the last decade we have progressed in terms of women entrepreneurship, and I see that on entrepreneurial sites like Misho that has got thousands and thousands of women, actually, small home entrepreneurs who are able to offer services to people. So connecting that, I think technology has made a big difference. But in the big picture, I think that we have a long way to go. That the ability that McKinsey Global Institute did a study and said that if we can get just 10% more women, because today, if you look at it, I think that our countries, there are about 20% of women who are engaged in the workforce, and that is almost in some countries it's 40%. In some countries like India, it's only 20% of what the men's engagement in the workforce is. If we can move this up by 10%, the global GDP will actually move up by almost $2 trillion. And I think that's significant. That's an economic value that we owe it to ourselves and to our countries. So you change makers making this happen will really make a big difference. So I'm going to quickly switch on to all of you and hope that you'll talk not just about your personal experiences, but what are the big changes that are happening in your countries and how we can make this sustainable. It, like none of these changes, I think, should be episodic. It's about being sustainable, it's about being inclusive, and it's about creating this real economic value. So what are the drivers that are making that happen in your countries? So the first speaker that I'd like to invite is Dr. Renu Swaroop. I've been with her on several panels, and each time she's so impressive. Her official designation is the Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Government of India. But she is a trained PhD in genetics and plant breeding and has her postdoctoral from the Johns Inn Centre in Norwich, UK. Dr. Swaroop has been instrumental in the planning and implementation of major national programs such as the spatial characterization of biodiversity, second generation bioethanol, and many. And as the Secretary of the Government of India, Department of Biotechnology, she leads a network of 16 autonomous research institutes. And I think in all these, she's added so much value and more women inclusion, because she's a great believer in women and STEM, being more inclusive and scaling it. So, Dr. Swaroop, Renu, over to you. We'd love to listen.
Thank you very much, Shobna, and thank you for this Prarambh initiative for the startup event. So congratulations to everyone who's been involved and engaged in it to bring this to the main stream of your discussions in terms of the women entrepreneurial empowerment, etc. I like the name Prarambh because this is really the start where we are discussing about the women entrepreneurship. I'm confident that if we keep driving it like this, we will probably not need a separate session or a separate group discussing only women entrepreneurship, because I think that is really where the strength is to be. The whole gender diversity issue that we talk about, we really need to look at diversity, we need to look at being inclusive, and then the women entrepreneurs need to become an integral part of our startup entrepreneurial ecosystem. We need to empower them to a level where we don't really then look at them as a separate stream, which we have to make an effort to integrate into the mainstream. And I think that is really where our effort has to be now. Not seeing what is it that we really need to say that we have them, we've identified the challenges, and we've started working on the solutions. I think that's really where we need to add pace now. What are those policy enablers? What are those key drivers that we need to bring in, that it becomes an all-inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem that is growing with the gender diversity as a part of it, which looks at both the men and the women, to bring in the diversity and see how do we take it forward. I think very correctly in your session you have brought out certain key. When I was looking at the flyers that you had brought out, I think it's important to flag certain issues that, as I said, one is how do we integrate it into the mainstream? How do we empower them? Where are the gaps currently? Why are we not seeing more women entrepreneurs coming into it? So I think the empowerment is key and crucial. And coming from the science and technology field and the biotechnology field specifically, which I represent, I think both financial inclusion and technological empowerment are key and crucial for this as we move forward. Many a times we've seen women entrepreneurs coming forward. They have brought in with them that they have an appetite for risk. They're willing to come forward and get onto this entrepreneurial journey, but they really have not been able to identify which are those key technological areas where they can then take this risk and move ahead. So I think to give them this financial inclusion, to bring in this technological empowerment, from the government, we've taken a large number of steps. But I think it's not just the government, the country as a whole has taken this forward. Today, within the country, we really have seen the boundaries between public and private sector getting blurred. In the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem, we've seen the public and the private sector working, our research institutes, our incubators, our large industry coming together. And COVID has been a wonderful example of that. Everyone's come together to deliver the S&T solutions that we so wonderfully see happening. When we started with the PPEs, the masks, the diagnostic kits, today we see the vaccines. Everyone kept asking, when is it rolling out? We actually are there on the D-Day now. And this has been, we haven't seen how many men have contributed, how many women have contributed. If you put the numbers, I think it's an all-inclusive team. How did we do that? You look at the administration of the vaccine that's going to happen. You have a large number of women, and Shobna will be able to share with you because you are one of the key agencies driving it at the ground level. The healthcare workers, you'll see that's where we brought in the empowerment. The solutions that we've delivered today, the diagnostic kits which have been delivered, you'll see large number of women entrepreneurs who have come forward, whether it's the diagnostics, point of care diagnostics, or it's looking at the reagents that are coming in. So I think today we are ready to bring an amalgamation of science and entrepreneurship with the partnership of women. We've done a lot. We've got gender neutral policies with which we've actually enabled some of the research scientists to come back after their career breaks. We've got schemes which the department has launched where we've been able to bring in some of our research scientists, as I said, after the career break, but also see that we give them different career opportunities, which are not really, those conventional ones. Okay, if you've done your PhD, you've done your research, you have to get into a research field, you have to take on a research project. There are the whole area of IPR, the whole area of bioinformatics, the whole area of data analysis. All those are science-related opportunities which allow women to take on many such opportunities. We've created special women biotechnology parks. In fact, we have 5 such parks that we are really talking about. We've got different opportunities that we've been able to create for them. Over these last few years, we've seen the participation of women in our research and scientific endeavors has actually moved from 20% to nearly 40% now. So we are close to that 50% that we've been targeting. So what else is it that we have to do is what we are trying to envisage. So we've now started going to the foundational level. How can we empower the girl child? How can we bring young students into it? And I think if we build a very strong base, a very strong, large foundation, you'll automatically see that the numbers move as they move up. And I think that's really the effort that we are doing, helping them to look inwards. to identify their own strengths and see how they can build those leadership. So I can see the time, Shobana. I can see that you have many other panelists. I would only like to say that forums such as this help us to bring all the best practices of countries. And I'm sure we'll learn from all different countries and exchange and see how we can take it forward. So thank you very much, Shobana.
Thank you so much, Renu. Just before you go, you've spoken in your professional capacity. Do you have daughters?
No, Shobana, I'm not married, but I have nieces and nephews, and I
Okay.
have a large family. And I know that they are the ones that we would like to see how we could encourage them right from the day they are born.
One word of advice, what would you give your niece to be an entrepreneur? Would you encourage her to be an entrepreneur in India or to follow your footsteps?
So I would say follow what you would like to do. We are not there to choose for you. There is no job or no job opportunity which has a gender tag on it. You can do whatever anyone does. That all jobs should be gender neutral. We are the ones who say this is for women, this job is for men. I don't think we should allow them to do that. So I will say follow what your mind allows you to do. You must have the choice to decide. And I think that is an empowerment we need to give to everyone to take it forward.
Very nice of you. Thank you. I have two daughters. I'll take this back to them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and always a pleasure. I'll move on to my next speaker. Tina Jabin is the Managing Director and CEO of Startup Bangladesh Limited, and she's actually the first Managing Director and Chief Executive of this ICT division, which is the first and only venture capital fund sponsored by the government of Bangladesh. So I think you meet a lot of entrepreneurs, and I request you to share your experiences, Tina. You're on mute.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Shomana, thank you so much. And it was very, very, very inspiring to listen to Madam Renu Swarup, a very, very progressive and extremely encouraging personality. And also a very good afternoon to my very distinguished women panelists. I feel very honored. And like my previous speaker said that, we all need to really do what we like to do, we love to do, and follow your heart basically. So I have been to US for about 27 years in the investment banking private equity industry, and I actually came back after that career to Bangladesh, where I was born. And for the last 4.5 years, I have been seeing what's happening in the country, especially now that Bangladesh is so very ready to enter the global market. So I'll just share some of my experiences, and we can go from there. What I understand is that women in Bangladesh, the women contribute in many different ways. One is obviously from the labor force. About 35 to 40% of the labor force are women, and also micro entrepreneurs. So altogether, they contribute quite a bit in the GDP. The agri-tech industry is very high. Agriculture industry is about 25% of the GDP. And women, the micro merchants, the livestock, the agri-farmers, there is a huge population of women entrepreneurs in there. So, that has been my kind of an exposure, especially from the startup ecosystem, because that's what I work with. And, from our startup side, these women, the ones who are working in the fields, especially with agriculture, livestock, and also e-commerce, a lot of these women are now onboarded in our large flagship startups, such as, ShopUps, where we do B2B, servicing. Almost 700,000 women, 700,000 entrepreneurs, and a big part of that is women, micro merchants. They're already in this big startup. Also Chaldal, and then Sheba XYZ. These are all big startups who are contributing a lot in the economy, But what's important is that, a majority, a big part of their, the micro entrepreneurs are women. So, that is one of my, observation. And also, the thing is that what I say is that women are a major growth engine anywhere. In a place like Bangladesh, that's even bigger. If you increase women, their income, if you bring them into financial inclusion safety net, you give them empowerment, like my previous speaker said. And Bangladesh has seen that the success story of bringing women and empowering them financially. Our mortality rate has gone down a lot. Educations for young girls has gone up a lot. So this has a big one of the big reason are really financially empowered women. So I just wanted to quickly touch base on Startup Bangladesh, and I'm sure there may be some questions that I would be able to answer during the session. Startup Bangladesh Limited is a venture capital fund, flagship venture capital fund by the ICT Ministry, started with about $65 million, a very tiny allocation from our Honorable Prime Minister. And what we are doing is we are investing in seed and growth and stage startups. And some pre-seed grants, we are also doing that. But part of that allocation, we are setting aside for women founders who are using technology to bring in essential and crucial services to the mass. COVID has been a big learning point for us, and where the country kind of leapfrogged into embracing technology. And interestingly, a lot of these our entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, are also kind of leapfrogged into, picking up digital technology as part of their business, using digital devices to do their inventories, using fintech solutions to run their businesses. So going forward, we are looking into, as far as our policies goes, we want to make sure that to empower our women entrepreneurs, and also to make sure that to reach the last miles, and make sure that we reach the last client in the remote areas with digital devices, accessible and affordable digital platforms and services. So with that, I would like to finish here. And again, thank you to Prarambh and Startup India Summit for arranging this. Thank you so much. Shobhana, do you want to unmute your microphone?
Sorry. So great example, that you coming back from the US and leading such an initiative. Just one quick question that if you can get to us. What do you think are the different, there might be some special initiatives that you need for women entrepreneurs different from the men. And maybe you can point out one or two. And of course, we've been getting this theme about financial inclusion, and but would there be some special teachings or skills that we need to integrate in so that the other countries can think about it?
Yes, absolutely. We have been involved in a couple of research and analysis with some developmental agencies, and also our SME Foundation, which is specifically focused on women. And a couple of very common themes that came out is that access to finance is a huge issue, and digital literacy is a huge issue, and also where there are educated women startup founder, they're very good at the technical area or technology area, but they actually lack the business skills. So with that, we are coming up with a couple of plans, and one of them is to provide some sort of a more creative financing for these women entrepreneurs, be it a startup founder, be it a very small, MSMEs. And the second thing is, definitely digital literacy. So we are planning to set up like like Center for Excellence for Women Entrepreneurs, where they will learn the business skills, how to prepare a financial, how to put a business model together. And then, of course, there is this policy side, which is one of the thing is that, how we can train our the last mile client, because that's very important. The last thing is our digital device. So we are trying to figure out how we can come up with a plan where we can provide affordable digital device, and women entrepreneurs, and also the girls who are studying in remote villages can access affordable internet. So these we are looking at, and we are coming up with some more practical solutions in our ICT policies in 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And I must say that your Prime Minister is such a role model. I co-chaired one of the WEF summits with her, and she's just amazing. So I think that would really go a long way in helping. So we need to move along, and my third panelist is Ms. Choitso Edul Dorji. She is the founder of a recent startup in natural wellness products in Bhutan, but she's worked for 7 years with the Ministry of Economic Affairs, with the government of Bhutan, and has worked as a consultant with UNDP for cottage and small industries development, and bringing them access to finance and business climate. She's been educated in and has a master's from the US, and has also worked in the WTO, and has trained in the WTO. So I think it's a fantastic background for what she's doing in her country. And over to you, Choitso.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Shobana, for this kind introduction, and Tina and Dr. Swaroop. It's an honor for me to be part of this distinguished panel. Like you said, I'm an entrepreneur here in Bhutan. I'm also a consultant in trade facilitation. I have a few small businesses in trade development, in education, in tourism, and a recent startup in skincare, in natural skincare product. I'm happy to share with you the existing good practices in Bhutan to promote women entrepreneurship. And also, I'd like to share the challenges that I perceive in the promotion of women entrepreneurship in Bhutan. First, I'd like to give an overall picture of women entrepreneurship, because the Bhutanese economy is, like most developing economies, dominated by MSMEs. And 90% of our businesses in Bhutan are MSMEs. And from 90% of these MSMEs, we have 60% of them owned by women. So it is quite significant. And I think, although of course the trend is that they are in the crowded, low productivity areas like retail, small retail stores, restaurants, as well as beauty services, but they are owned by women. This is because of a result of the overall government policy in the past decade to reinforce the role of entrepreneurship as a driving force of the economic growth, and also recognizing it as a solution for rising unemployment. So this is a comprehensive, I think, a comprehensive result of this. But like Dr. Swaroop mentioned in her discussion, there hasn't in Bhutan there hasn't been a segregation or women-centered initiatives as such in terms of promotion of entrepreneurship. So I don't know if that has been a challenge or a positive point in this aspect for Bhutan. We have currently over 30 organizations, NGOs, institutions, initiatives to support entrepreneurs. But out of the 30, I think just 3 of them are women-centered. So to go to what I think prevailing challenges is really what Tina mentioned. Financial inclusion remains the primary challenge for Bhutanese women entrepreneurs. And second, the need for capacity building. I believe Tina also recognized that in Bangladesh. And third, I would like to put forth that I think that a very important aspect of promoting women entrepreneurship in Bhutan is really having gender disaggregated data. It's something that we have not had in Bhutan and I think that's a necessity so that we can put in place what Dr. Swarup was mentioning, evidence-based policies and initiatives. In terms of the status of financial inclusion of women entrepreneurs in Bhutan, although we do benefit from a matriarchal culture and the transfer of ownership rights is not an issue. Most women entrepreneurs don't go to financial institutions because of the lack of credit history, as simple as that, or understanding of the process of getting a loan. And I think there are no specific financing options for women. So we don't have products specific to women entrepreneurs. We do have 2 microfinance institutions, but of course, the trapping of keeping them in low productivity, that is also an issue. We also have what Tina mentioned, the lack of knowledge and skills needed to start, manage, and grow a business is a key barrier to promoting women entrepreneurship in Bhutan. We have a lot of business support services run by the government as well as NGOs. But I think understanding the negotiations, bargaining, marketing, management, production, as well as economies of scales and even essential requirements for financial institutions are often, I think, poorly developed in women entrepreneurs in Bhutan, and that would be interesting to have a women-centered program for that. Lastly, I think the most important is having gender disaggregated data, because it would I think it's necessary to have these women-centered programs, and it will help understand the link between gender and trade, and enable entrepreneurship promotion to advance an inclusive trade and make it a reality. So this is what I have to share from Bhutan, the good practices as well as the challenges that I see. And thank you very much for this platform. I'm sorry, Shobana, I think you're muted.
I keep doing that. Sorry. So thank you for this. And I think that lots of the points that you made reinforced what the other speakers had brought out. But your specific point on gender disaggregated data is something that that we are learning is making a big difference in parts of India as we do it, because they do need that initial fillip first to be recognized, and then after that for us to be able to create the programs around it. Quick question. I know that we're running out of time, but I did want to ask you this because you probably were hit the most with the COVID-19, the pandemic, because your country is so tourism oriented. So what happened, and how did the women cope?
Thank you for this question. Yes, we are very, tourism sector is a very important sector in Bhutan, and tourism related support services like restaurants are also very important. Guiding, we were significantly hit by the COVID pandemic. We were very fortunate that at the onset of the pandemic, His Majesty the King of Bhutan set up an income relief fund. This income relief fund was targeted to private sector business owners and employees to get get income relief. His Majesty decreed also that loans should be the interest on loans should be borne by the government for most of the year 2020. That helped a lot, but it also highlighted the vulnerability of the lack of financial buffers for small women enterprises, and as well as women in the financial sector. Women in the informal sector. That was really highlighted, I think, because of we could relate that to the women who took that income relief fund. And most of them are women, so I think it was translated as that. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to really assess the role of financial buffers needed for small business owners as well as women entrepreneurs. So
really appreciate that. Thank you, Charitsa. We're moving on to Myanmar, where we have the Deputy Director of SME Development, Miss Miu Miu Aye. Miu Miu uh, is the Deputy Director of the Development of SME Department under the Ministry of Industry, which includes negotiation, communication, cooperation, coordination with international organizations, local organizations, especially for market access to technology for SMEs. So over to you, Miu Miu.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon to. Thank you, Ms. Subas, and introducing me. It was a pleasure to introduce myself again. I'm Mue, Deputy Director from XME Development Department, Ministry of Planning and Finance and Industry in Myanmar. Yes. As I'm from XME Development Department, we are focusing on the promoting the XME development service that including that women entrepreneurship development, and also the before my the explanation about the women entrepreneurship development in our country. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much to the Indian government for inviting us to participate in the valuable virtual step at India, the International Summit, which was hosted by the Department of Promotion of Industry and International Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and the government of India. And also, I am delighted to meet the moderator and all of women panelists from the representative from business countries. I think this event is very the valuable for the women empowerment program. I would share the women what in our country what we are the talking we are the implementing about the women entrepreneur development program. Before my talking the women entrepreneur development in Myanmar, I would like to apologize in advance if I were any requirement the in discussion or the answering your question, because I was just assigned yesterday morning for joining today's session. This is the sense of the I prepare for this very hurry up. That's why I just apologize in advance. As you know, in Myanmar, now the Myanmar government also pay attention on the SME development in Myanmar as national priorities. As I mentioned in earlier, and including the entrepreneurship development, because we are aware that the role of women in Myanmar in the social and economic sphere is becoming increasingly significant, and the government also aware that the women-owned business are also added contributor to the development of SME, and also the women participation in the workforce and also increase in Myanmar compared with the before last years ago. And even in my office, I have all the SME development department in Yangon region, and there are also the women workforce is more than the men force. But the in Myanmar, we are still smaller in number or time to concentrate it on a few Sada or women in Myanmar, and they some are not still fully participated in the formal labor market due to the culture and the financial substance, political and social the constraint. And also the during pandemic on COVID-19, the women-owned SME are affected, and most of the women SME owned business, they are shut down and slow down and stop their business. Thus at that time the government in our Myanmar is the supporting to the COVID-19 relief loan to the women entrepreneur. And also the now Myanmar government is drafting the resilient reform plan of the Myanmar, including to support the fund in order to increase the women-led business in small and medium enterprise. And also in Myanmar, there are a lot of the women entrepreneurship development program. Some of the concerned ministry, including our ministry, what we are doing for the development of women entrepreneurship in Myanmar. We are making the some of capacity building program, business BDS, business development service provider, and also incubator program, also the mentorship program, and we are cooperating the NGO, INGO, and business association. I think I hope that we can learn a lot this session, and this session would be very fruitful for us because of different perspective view and different experience, and share the knowledge of from the woman from the representative of this country. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Miss. Yes.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and even coming at this short notice. I'm going to move on to the next, the founder of the Bihani social venture, and we're moving on to Nepal. I have I have Santoshi Rana with us, and she's very interesting, passionate, young entrepreneur who really wants to talk about all people with this. That's her passion, and I'm going to give her the floor, and hope you will give me time to ask you a question. So if you can finish in 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Shobna. And it's really nice to be sharing a platform with all of you. And I would really like to thank Prarambh and Startup India for giving us this opportunity to connect with each other, because one of the main things that's very important as an entrepreneur or as a social entrepreneur is also the fact that we need networks like this, we need platforms, we need forums like this where we can learn from each other, because as you all are aware, Nepal is a very small country comparatively. And for us to even share about what's happening in Nepal, to get a chance to share about it is also a big thing for us, because getting a platform that too at the level of one of the biggest economies in the world, which is India, itself is a privilege for me. So I'm not just representing Bihani today, but it's also with a lot of pride that I'm representing the amazing work that's being done in Nepal. Because most of the times when we talk about Nepal, we always talk about the negative aspects of it. As you all are aware, we had a lot of political instability for many years. There was conflict that existed. Nepal ranks amongst the lowest countries in terms of ease of doing business. As per the last World Bank report, Nepal ranked 107 amongst the 190 countries in terms of ease of doing business. So you can imagine what the economy is like, or the entrepreneurial ecosystem was like a few years back. But having said that, I think we are in a very exciting phase in Nepal. I see a lot of exciting, very amazing world-class entrepreneurship that's coming up, not just related to women, but also entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship in general. I'm very happy about the fact that since I'm a social entrepreneur myself, we are not just focusing on pure entrepreneurship in Nepal, we are also now learning and becoming more aware about the fact that for a country like Nepal, social entrepreneurship is very, very important. It's very conducive for developing countries, because it's important for us to identify a social problem without being donor dependent, and building our own business models so that we are sustainable in the long run. Because on the other hand, you all might also be aware that Nepal is a very donor dependent country. And that is also one of the main reasons why I did not want to establish an NGO or be donor dependent, and I took the path towards social entrepreneurship. Having said that, we are still lagging behind in terms of women entrepreneurship. Only up to around 11 to 12% of the entrepreneurs are women. The other thing that I really liked about what Dr. Swarup said was the fact that when we talk about entrepreneurship from a gendered perspective, sometimes we tend to stereotype it ourselves, you know. Unfortunately, in society, what I've noticed, this is my personal view, I see that it's we women who actually pull down women more, you know. So we talk about gender, but unfortunately, it's we women who promote the societal norms, who promote the biases that exist in society. So as a woman entrepreneur, I would like to say that if we need to expand our network, or if we as women need to grow, it is very important that we as women and individuals first realize our worth, our self-worth, and we look at ourselves just as an individual and not from a very gendered perspective, because the moment I think of myself not as just Santoshi, but as a lady, a woman, automatically I have all these biases that start coming in my mind, which also then tends to create havoc in terms of my self-belief. So what I would like to tell women entrepreneurs, or even from my personal experience, is the fact that it's very, very important to have self-belief. It's very important to believe in yourself as an individual and not being defined by what society says or what the norms are. And overall, in terms of women entrepreneurship, we all need to remember that women are the backbone of the society. We are very integral to any society that we belong to. And that itself, I think, is the most empowering thing that we all need to be aware about. So I think, Shobana, you wanted to ask me another question. So I stop here.
I are very passionate and some of the things that you said, but you also, when I met you yesterday,
Yes.
and you know, if you talk about anything else, one thing that is inevitable is aging.
Yes.
And like me, who just turned 60, and so I cycled 600 kilometers just to prove that age is a number. But talking to you, I think that you need, as the world tries to become younger, do you feel that there's more relevance in what you're doing or less relevance?
There's more relevance, and actually, thanks for bringing this up, because one of the other things I wanted to talk about in terms of entrepreneurship was also about breaking ageist stereotypes. Whenever we talk about startups, we only talk about youth. Youth is the future. But what we are not realizing is that senior citizens are actually the future of tomorrow, because the countries that we all belong to, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Thailand, we all are from countries which has the largest growing aging population at this point in time. You'll be surprised that magazines like Vogue, or even fashion industries are actually hiring models who are in their 70s, who are in their 60s, 80s. Why? Because that's what they realize is the future. So if you see, I think as entrepreneurs, we also need to break the ageist stereotype about the fact that it's only young people who can start startups. You'll be surprised, according to research, people who are successful in building startups are actually from people who are in their in the 40s or 50s or even 60s, There was recently an article in India about a 94-year-old lady in Chandigarh who has started selling besan ki barfi, And these are also startups. They are also entrepreneurs. Age doesn't define the fact that you are a startup entrepreneur, So startup doesn't mean 18 to 35 or 18 to 28 years of age. It also goes beyond that, yeah.
Lovely thought. The self-belief, and then age really doesn't stop you from being an entrepreneur. So with that, I'm moving on to much south of you and even us in India, into Sri Lanka. I have the chief executive, the group chief executive of Hemas Holdings, Kasturi Chalaraja Wilson. So Kasturi, you're a consummate professional. You've done many things. And most important is that you've been recognized as one of the 12 top women change makers in the country last year by the Parliament of Sri Lanka. And you're also a very active sportswoman. So I love that. Please give us your perspective.
Thanks, Shobana, and from sunny Sri Lanka. Hi to everybody out there. It's a privilege, and by listening to the benefit of being the last or one of the people who came in later is I'm listening to all, and I think we have some certain common things which run around the country, the regions, because maybe we are from Asia, and the challenges are somewhat similar, and yet it's different. So I'm come from the corporate side, but I'm passionate about women in active participation of labor participation. Sri Lanka being a small island, we have 22 million people. Out of the 51% are women. And that is a data point. And when you look at our undergraduates, other than engineering and I think the technical IT subjects, rest of it is about 60% graduate out. However, when we look at labor force participation, it's around 35%. We've dropped from about 37 to 35% in the country. And then on the entrepreneur side of it, women-led entrepreneurs are much less. They're around 13 to 15% between that. On the tech side, the percentage is a bit higher. And why do we need this to actually work for us? Whether it's at a corporate or at a startup or at grassroots level entrepreneurs, we need them to contribute more, and we need them to succeed. Women actually, when you look at our foreign remittances, they are the ones who go out there and work, and 90% come from the female workers who are overseas. Sri Lanka started this journey thanks to a lot of passionate Sri Lankans to become a startup nation. So we have a goal of moving to about 1,000 startups in 2024. We have about 350, and when you compare to India, it's nowhere. But we still feel that that's a good place to start in the types of startups. In the tech space, the government agency even has very good the incubation kind of ecosystem set up, and that's headed by a female to support the incubation, the startups to kind of succeed. However, like in Bhutan, we don't have gender disaggregated data. It's very tough for us to support the women in the startups because it's not identified separately. It's not in the agenda in that sense. But having said that, we have the Lankan Angels Network, which has 100 angels who support startups who have put money in. So it's called this Lankan Angel Network. In that, the Ford Foundation actually had given a fund to allocation majority should go into women-led startups. So we are supporting women-led startups. There is another data point which is disparate here. It's that in the urban side, urban cities, you have more women startups, and it's kind of simpler for them. In the rural parts of Sri Lanka, the startup challenges are much more. Firstly, it's very tough to identify it. You won't have the funds going and operating in those rural startups because they are not scalable. The smaller regional funds would. There is microfinancing, but we have a cultural issue here. Culturally, generally, when a woman gets married, the majority of the assets become it's owned by the husband. So the properties generally go into the husband's name. And we have this problem when the startup is run by the woman. At grassroots level, the problems they have is they cannot take a loan because the startup is not owned by the woman, because on paper it is the husband's name or a joint name which comes in. By that, their ability to raising funds is a problem. Ability to raise funds without an asset as a collateral is a problem. So these kind of issues are there, and the common issue right across any social strata is that while we encourage I think Sri Lanka has evolved to a gender blind kind of a gender neutral kind of a position, whether it's corporate or startups. And the problem is that at a home front, the woman is still the homemaker. How do you balance them? The challenges are much more. We still don't have an answer for that, but we still need to understand that it's more difficult for women-led startups to succeed because they have other responsibilities and they cannot focus on this alone. So we are on a journey, but as a country, we are really focusing, and there's so much of funding, and we've got investment funds from the startup point to mature and growth. You have venture capitalists at the other spectrum as well. We have an objective, but the female-led entrepreneurs, their ability to succeed depends a lot on our ability to identify and support their specific requirements as well.
Thank you, Kasturi. In fact, all the list of questions that we thought we would ask you, you answered them. So, and also as I see time running out, but I just want to tell you that there's so much cultural affinity between our countries, and you know that for years. So we hear you, and I do think that I want to just congratulate you that you must be one of. Tell me really quickly, among the top 100 CEOs in the country, how many are women?
The list came out actually about 3 weeks back. We have about 6 women in the top 100. Yeah.
I thought it's just you. So,
we have some, and we have.
okay, so I'm corrected. But thank you so much for this. I'm moving on to our last speaker. Warankana Panwanich is actually a trained veterinarian, and not only that, she's established Petineer, a fully pet health solution provider that uses R&D and an innovation platform. So really, what a great spectrum. And, Warankana is from Thailand, so she's going to give us a great perspective. As our last speaker, she has a master's degree in biomedical engineering also. So I think it's a great combination. And please, we'd love to hear you. I know we're out of time, but please go ahead and let's fit in everything.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much, Ms. Shobana, to introducing me. And very briefly, my company is start with my passion to help the pet that's suffering from the illness and disabled. I want to share my story. Like, if I can do it, you all female can do it. If you believe, you can do. First, I got this problem, but because I'm graduate as a veterinarian, and I think how I can help them and create a new solution. So I try to continue the degree, the different degree like veterinarians and the biomedical engineering. And that time, mostly engineering is a male, not female, but I think I can do it. So I try to study and graduate. After that, with the mixed profession, I can create many things to help them. Like one of the cases come to me without the leg, both of one legs, because this dog was cutting both of one legs because he buy the shoes of neighbor. And how can I do it? I try to think with my team and create a new solution like a prosthetic for him. And that day I feel very happy because I can help them to not just only walk, but he can run again. Like we all can create the new things and give the second chance of life to the animals. Later, we can acquire the patents, and we can set up the small department unit in the animal hospital. That is the first one in Thailand, and got 7 awards from the international fair. We cooperate with the Japanese Tech Planta. It's the organization to work like a research together, and got the funding to. We got the funding and trying to develop the prototype between Thailand and Japan. And last 2 years, I think about the spin off our own company and set up products and have the opportunity to expand the market to human this year. And I plan to scale up to human market. So it have many opportunities that women can do it. And I want to inspire all of you. Just a little girl. We have the many tasks to manage, like management, veterinarian, engineering. Somebody have be the mother, but I already proved that we can handle it, and I hope you can do it.
Yeah. I love that, and the fact that you're doing something that is so way out there. Science, technology, and pets. Many people would not even have come up with the idea. So I think what we need to take away from you is really that when you have a spark and belief in an idea, and it comes from a lot of professional wisdom that you have. So you have to have the training. So I'm going to wrap up this session, and I want to thank you and all my participants here, and just tell the audience that we've been so privileged and fortunate that we've had an amazing panel of women from government, women from who are professionals, consummate professionals that have actually, that have really struggled, been there, understood, and are at the top of their leadership, abilities. And I think that many of you have brought new ideas, not just to your countries, but you've come back with a belief, trained outside and really come back with a belief to contribute to your different countries. And I think this is a great thing for everyone in the audience to learn. But having said that, themes that came out was financial inclusion, that access to funding, that we needed to have more tech capabilities, we needed we needed self-belief, and of course, I love the one that said age is not a barrier to entrepreneurship, as is gender and age are not barriers anymore. That women do have an appetite for risk, but a lot of them need to be handheld through this. And I think that the fact that we need more gender aggregated data, we need the government to step in with more hand holding and policies that are friendly to women, to pick them up. But again, many of your countries have done so well. So thank you again, panelists, and thank you, audience. I think all these are great steps towards more and more women inclusion, and I'm sure this is going to be a better place for our daughters, our nieces, our girlfriends. That this it'll be a new world, and COVID notwithstanding, we've learned better lessons and more resilience. So I leave you with a message of great resilience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.